Hello, and welcome to this episode of Above the Fold. I'm your host, Haley Humphrey, and with me today is the lovely Janae Williams. Janae, we're so happy you're here.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yes. Okay, so let's get right into it. All right, so Janae, you wrote the abortion piece in the Vista. And so why don't you just give us like a brief synopsis of the story?
Yeah, okay, so I wanted to do a story that wasn't super politically charged, but that just kind of looked at the basics of access in the state of Oklahoma.
Right.
It came to be because with everything that was happening in Missouri, with the threat of their last center being shut down and things like that, I wanted to look at what the options were because I had been told that a lot of people come from other states to Oklahoma to get access to abortion care and providers here.
Wow, and that's surprising since Oklahoma is such a conservative state. You wouldn't think that people would travel.
Yeah, it is, but then we have states, like I said, like Missouri, that only have one clinic altogether. So when you have one clinic servicing an entire group of people, a lot of them live closer to the Oklahoma border, and so they can just hop right down to Tulsa and get the care that they need there.
That's true. So wait, how many clinics does Oklahoma have?
Oklahoma has 3 currently, which is down significantly from in the past. At one point in 1982, I think it was, we had 18 clinics, and now we only have 3. So.
Oh my gosh! Wow. And the 3 are where? We have one in Tulsa.
One in Tulsa, one in Oklahoma City, and one in Norman.
Okay, right. So what are the I know your story kind of detailed some restrictions that Oklahoma has passed laws on for like the abortion clinics. Can you go into those restrictions that we have?
Yeah, so in the state of Oklahoma, in 2019 they tried to pass a lot of new measures. None of them passed, but currently Oklahoma uses a lot of what are referred to in the pro-choice community as TRAP laws, which are targeted restrictions for abortion providers. And that basically means that they can regulate anything from the rules about what doctors can perform procedures where, the size and space required for procedures. So what that means is that if they're just specifically targeting the doctors, a lot of times what they do is they say that a doctor has to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital. Even though abortion is one of the safest procedures known, they say that that's a requirement in case something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And then the problem with that is that a lot of times because the number of procedures a doctor has to perform every year within a hospital dictates whether or not they can have admitting privileges. Doctors aren't needing to go there because, like I said, abortion is so safe that when doctors do have, only maybe like 3% of their cases that end up needing some kind of aftercare in a hospital, if even that, you're talking about them not meeting the standard of care or the standard of requirement for the number of procedures per year to maintain their admitting privileges at local hospitals. And then for the centers themselves, they are often told that they have to have so much square footage, they have to have certain kinds of doors, the hallways have to be a certain width, things like that. There's a lot of red tape essentially for them to cut through just to be able to open their doors.
A lot of nitpicky stuff. Even in your story you detailed that doctors are even like they can't say some stuff or they have to say what the state wants them to say.
Yes.
That was mind-boggling to me.
Yes. So there are specific rules and scripts that abortion care providers are required by the state of Oklahoma and many other states to read to people. This falls along with the things that they're required to read. They're also required to do certain procedures, like they're required to do an ultrasound. There has to be a mandatory waiting period. So a woman goes in and then she has to wait 72 hours before she can go back for the procedure. So she can't go in, make the decision, and have it done the same day. She has to wait 72 hours and
even
then
if
go
she
back.
doesn't want to wait.
Yeah, even if she doesn't want to wait, it's a requirement because that's just what they've put into place. And then as far as some of the things that doctors are being forced to tell patients, because there's 2 types of abortion, there's medication abortions and there's surgical abortions. One of the things that I found really intense was that they're now putting into effect wording for doctors that makes it seem as if a medication abortion can be reversed. And there's no scientific evidence for that. Once you've taken the first round of because it happens in 2 medications. You take one you're in the office with the provider, and then they give you a different one that you go home and take the next day.
Okay.
And so, but once that first one is taken, it's in process. And essentially what that medication does is it forces a miscarriage because it's only available up to the first 10 weeks of a pregnancy. So it's people who are very early in their pregnancy, and essentially it forces a miscarriage. Well, they're being told that it can be reversed, and it's creating even more confusion for people that are trying to get information, because doctors don't necessarily want to have to tell patients that because they
Yeah.
have no scientific evidence to prove it. But it's a requirement by state law.
I don't even know where that originated from. Like, how can it even be reversed? Like, that's man.
Yeah.
But no, that's crazy. And another thing that I think is important to mention, since we're talking about the medication abortion, is I think what can get confusing to people is the difference, like between Plan B and medication abortion. So can you kind of like explain the difference there?
Yeah, absolutely. So a medication abortion is when you are already pregnant. So you've the baby has attached and is forming at that point. And so a medication abortion, and I use the word baby. Some people would just use the word fetus or embryo, but it is attached at that point and is developing. Plan B is only effective 72 hours after sex. So what Plan B does is it essentially makes it to where an embryo cannot attach, so you can never become pregnant. It essentially keeps a woman from becoming pregnant,
Right.
which is why it's called emergency birth control. And it's usually, for most women, used as a lot of people stigmatize it as it's for women who are open and promiscuous, but really
Right,
it's most
right.
often used by people who are on traditional birth control and contraceptives that fail them.
Yeah.
So a condom breaks, they forget to take their regular pill and then realize that they've forgotten after the fact, things like that.
It's kind of like that backup. Like,
And it's essentially, that's what it is. It's a backup. So it's one of those things that they're like, oh, and most of the time it is, like I said, something like a condom breaking, or they're like, they realize it and they're like, oh, I'm on birth control and we were using a condom, but it broke, so I better cover myself just in case because I'm not in the place in my life where I'm ready to have a child.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. Well, that mostly covers everything I had with you today, Janae. I mean, do you have anything else you want to add?
no, I guess, well, just if anyone has questions or needs someone to speak to, the two groups that I spoke to regarding this piece, Trust Women's Center in Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma Call for Reproductive Justice, they were both so helpful in just giving me more information. And they both were adamant about the fact that they're here to provide people with the education they need to make a choice that's right for them. They're not trying to push people one way or the other.
Right.
They just want people to know all of the information before they make that decision and know what's available to
Of course,
them.
yeah.
So if you're in need of help or have questions, like definitely go to an organization that you know isn't going to pressure you one way or the other, that they're going to just give you information and let you make the choice for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming here today.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in.